Hello, I am Carlos and this is my moment of music. We want to answer the questions that you have sent us, and so for today we have the very first one. In an orchestra, how do we determine who plays what? The recruiting process in every professional ensemble is arduous and it requires time. First, every musician has to go through a grueling process of auditions where it is nitpick every single detail of their skill and the musicianship. The orchestra determines which instrument could be served better by each of the participants in such audition. Therefore, we want every single person in the orchestra playing every single instrument. I have heard this question many times: does a conductor play every instrument? So technically, I am in capacity of knowing what to do in order to produce a sound in the instrument, but you will immediately realize each of the musicians have spent at least 20 to 25 years before arriving to play in the orchestra playing one single instrument. Their expertise has to be recognized. Therefore, I will never be able to play any of the instruments in the orchestra as well as any of the players do. Now, after the audition process, each of the players is going to be assigned one single instrument, unless you are in the percussion family, where your role is to play as many of the instruments as possible, an exception made by the timpanist, which is concentrated exclusively in those full drums. When the player is assigned then for an instrument, sometimes composers require what we call auxiliary instruments. So if you play an oboe, sometimes you might be asked to play the English horn, although in a professional ensemble, all those auxiliary instruments are also assigned in a process of audition to one single person. By any rate, you will not have a single reed, like a clarinet, asked to be played a double reed, like a bassoon, or a contrabassoon, or an English horn. If you have the capacity to play both instruments, then at some passages in a symphony, perhaps Mahler, it will require 2 or 3 of the flute players to play also piccolos. But that's less common than you will think. In general, every single person in the orchestra plays one instrument when we are professionally performing. So the person asking this question also noticed in the videos that we record from home that sometimes we want to expand our skills and know other instruments. So in the background of their videos, they will have several other instruments. So sometimes, and this is in few cases, it's for decorations. Most of the time, it's just because each musician feels the need to expand the musical vocabulary and know how to play different instruments. Sometimes even instruments that we do not play in the orchestra. So this answers, I hope, your question. How do we choose an instrument and how do we pick the person that is gonna be played? It's an arduous process that sometimes takes up to 1 or 2 years in order to select among the candidate pool the right person. And just as a little bit of trivia, it is at least as difficult, or sometimes even more, for a musician to get into a professional orchestra in the United States as it is for a sport player to get into one of the top leagues of professional sports in the country. This is all for today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.